Hello, gorgeous heartbeat, and welcome to Heartbeats Harbor. I'm your host, Brianna Hosack, and I'm here to shine the light on the shadow path we walk as heartbeat women. Women rising into leadership roles as lightworkers, changemakers, world shakers, or as I call us, heartbeats, do not have an easy path to walk. It often feels lonely, painful, and unique, but I'm here to help you see how very not alone you are, and how beautiful the shadows surrounding you actually are when you love and integrate them on your healing journey. I create spaces and opportunities for women to step into deeper self-awareness, self-acceptance, and personal healing, community and sacred circles, as well as leadership of themselves, their families, their communities, and beyond. My business and my life is and always will be about massive change in the ways things are done around the world. I believe it's a big part of my purpose on this planet to be a voice for those who don't have one, a safe harbor for those who need one, and a beacon of light to inspire a better way. None of this is easy. I've learned that big impact requires bold action and delusional levels of confidence, as well as a ton of shadow work. If you love what you hear on this podcast and you want to be part of the growing, supportive online village of Heartbeats Harbor, make sure you join my Facebook group, which is linked below in the show notes. Now, I can't wait to get started, so let's turn on the lights.
Hey, heartbeats. Welcome back to another episode of the Heartbeats Harbor podcast. Today, this episode came at me just out of the blue. Someone had shared something inside of my Heartbeats Harbor group. Obviously, this is the Heartbeats Harbor podcast. And partway through this, I think it was a reel or like an Instagram video or something like that. But partway through this thing, it was talking about not rushing through life, not forcing everything. And it said, listen to your heartbeat. And I was just like, oh, I resonated with that so much. It was this message of slowing down. And so often in today's society, especially in Western society, we're always in a rush, right? We're always moving from one thing to the next and overwhelmed and busy. And it has become a source of pride for a lot of people to be busy and to be classified as busy. Like, even saying things like, I have a waiting list in my business, or my calendar's booked out. Like you're bragging that you're busy. And not that there's anything wrong with having your calendar booked out or having a waiting list in your business. That's great as far as business and financials go. But when you say you're booked out, does that mean you're overbooked, or does that mean that you are at the capacity that you preset for yourself that feels amazing, so that you still get time to slow down, to stop, to recenter, and to be coming from a place of what is in your highest good and the highest good of all. So listen to your heartbeat. I just thought that was so powerful, especially considering my brand being about heartbeats. So I wanted to talk about it. So what that really evoked for me was just this reminder of how difficult some people, especially in my world, a lot of the women in my world are neurodiverse, and they tend to have a hard time with meditation and shutting their brains off, either because they're so busy and they're so overwhelmed, or because, especially if you are neurodiverse, if your brain is hyper focused somewhere and you just can't seem to get those thoughts out of your head or whatever. And here's the thing I want to say about that. So I am creating an album, have been creating for so freaking long. It feels like this album for ADHD women for guided meditations for them, specifically created for ADHD women who struggle with meditating. But it is not about sitting and being silent always. Okay. So, in the beginning, when I first started meditating, I needed, first of all, guided meditations. I could not just listen to meditative music. So if that's all you've tried, to realize that there are multiple different types of meditation. You can meditate while on the move. Like you can be walking, you can be doing a repetitive task, sort of any repetitive task that doesn't take a lot of brain capacity. and that can be considered meditation. It's sort of any place that you are able to tune inwards and block out the noise of life around you a little bit. And that is something that we all need so desperately. So, what came to my mind about this though was that actually, if you can get quiet enough, and this comes in time. So if you need to start with those, with all the other methods of, walking, cleaning, whatever, where you are occupying your physical body so that your mind can be a little bit more at ease, it is, that's a great start, right? It's somewhere to get you started, to get you, um, realizing that you can shut your brain off. However, I do think it's important for people to learn to sit still. And this is, I say this with a little bit of sarcasm just because, like, literally my album is called If You Would Just Sit Fucking Still, right? But it is important. It is important to slow down enough. And now, when I say sit still, it means make my mind still, because my body is never still. I am always moving and twitching and doing all these things, and like tapping or you know, um, my foot will be bouncing or whatever. So I even do that in shamanic journey, which is like trance level deep state meditation. So um I want to, like, first off, give the permission slip to whoever needs it, that you don't have to sit perfectly still in order to be in a deep meditative state and being able to tune in enough. And actually, for me, the more still that I sit, sometimes the less I'm able to do that, just because then my brain really goes to those spots in my body that want to move. That just, there's an itch, or there's an uncomfortable, a muscle is stretched just a little too far one way, or, whatever. So, um, the point being still is about being still in your mind, not being still in your body. And so what was coming through for me was getting quiet enough to actually hear or feel your heartbeat is something that not a lot of people achieve. So if you can slow down your mind enough and de-stimulate yourself. I don't know what the appropriate word is for that, but we are all so overstimulated all the time that we actually don't know how to function when we don't have constant stimuli headed towards us. So and now I'm saying these in generalized terms. Obviously, some of us are working on this. Some of us have mastered it for certain amounts of time. Most of us are not at the level of being able to sit and just be and not have stimulation coming in for, like, say, days on end. Okay, now that's like, in my mind, monk level status, right? um, but here's the thing. Even with all my wiggles, even with all the need to move, like, as I'm recording this, all you're hearing is my voice, but my hands are going, they're waving around. I talk with my body, right? So um if you are ever on calls with me, or if you're ever in person with me, you'll see it. I don't ever sit perfectly fucking still. um it's very, very rare, and yet I get quiet enough to slow down and have my mind slow down enough that I can tune in, right? And this is so important. Um, if you want to have a successful life and maybe business, if you are one of my entrepreneurial listeners, um, you need to be able to tune into your intuition. And it is very difficult to do that if you can't quiet your mind. And I just thought, what a great idea to actually try to listen for your heartbeat, to try to actually slow down enough to feel your heart beating in your body and hear that. And some people might think, well, it's impossible to hear your heartbeat, but it's not. If you sit quietly enough, you start to hear the rush of your blood pumping in your veins, and that is your heartbeat. So you'll hear, actually, it's really funny because my son lately he'll suddenly burst out laughing, and it's when he becomes present to his body. So he'll be sitting there quietly, maybe reading to himself or whatever. And all of a sudden he'll burst out laughing and I'll ask him what's so funny. And he's like, my heart's beating in my butt, or my heart's beating in my leg, or my, and he's starting to feel that pulse throughout his body. And it just, it puts a huge grin on my face, because I'm like, that just means you're so present in your body. Right. And that is a huge win for him, because he is very, very neurodiverse. Like he's got extreme ADHD, and like I've mentioned before, I'm pretty sure, that he's autistic. And just for him to be that present with his body and just be silent long enough to really notice that, it just gives me so much joy. And I love that it makes him burst out laughing, because he's just like, I got a heartbeat in a different part of my body, right? But it is possible to hear and feel your heartbeat. And if you slow down enough, you can. And what really came through to me in listening to that sentence, listen to your heartbeat, was that it's not about the actual beating of your heart. What it is the rhythm that takes your mind to that place of calmness and stillness, where it's then able to receive the intuitive messages that you would need to receive. Now, whatever you believe about that it's messages from God, angels, source, universe, whatever you want to call it, your intuition, especially for you ladies out there, your sacred feminine intuition is so important in directing you in your life path, in helping you make wise choices for yourself, in finding what's right for you. So, for example, in shamanism, a lot of the time, when it comes to journeying, we use a tool called shamanic drumming, and the drumming rhythm is actually used to help your brain get into that trance state, that meditative trance state of journey, so that you can journey into the shamanic realms or the spiritual realms, with your mind, and be able to see and feel and speak with, energies, entities, spirits, whatever you want to call it, like, ancestors, etc. So it made me realize, at this point now, in the level of training that I've achieved with shamanism, and the amount of practice that I've put into it and all of that, I actually can sit in silence and journey. I don't need a shamanic drum going. I don't need a rattle. I don't need, any of the things. I can just do it in silence. And it really made me realize, well, there's always that beating of your heart, that rhythm that can take you into that. And so when you tune inwards, that's really what you're tuning into. You're listening to your heartbeat, and that rhythm can take you into that deep, deep meditative state where you can really access and be confident about your intuition. So I thought that was brilliant insight. Now, very quickly, because, we all talk about it, not all, but a lot of us talk about it all the time. And I see, I started out my business thinking very similar thoughts, like self-care for moms. This was like the big thing I wanted to focus on. I wanted to help moms get self-care, and nobody wants to hear it. No moms want to invest in their self-care, because they just think that they need to be sacrificing all the time for their kids, for their families, for their communities. And everybody's like, yeah, I know self-care. Yeah, I know self-care. But it's not, and even so many people even say, it's not about the bubble baths. It's not about the, like, we all get it. But here's the thing. If you are not starting out your day getting tuned in enough to hear your heartbeat, okay, and this is now going to be my new measuring stick. I'm just saying. If you're not doing that at the beginning of your day, and not being in silence to plan your day, not being in silence to plan your business, not any of that, but just being in silence and being open to following where your heartbeat leads you, where your intuition takes you, you are not, I can almost guarantee, on your perfectly aligned path that day. And I should not say perfectly, because I don't think any of us are going to be perfect, especially not consistently all day throughout the whole day, right? But when you start your day with silence and being open to follow where your heartbeat leads you, you are able to start on the right path. Okay. And that is massive, because if you start your day on the wrong path, on the wrong foot, wrong side of the bed, whatever you want to call it, you are not in line with what feels good for you, what is aligned for you in your life, and what is in your best interests. If you start your day out that way, how bad do you think it gets by the end of the day? If you think about a snowball effect, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. So when you take the time to start your day with silence, with tuning into your intuition and your heartbeat, you may only start the day in that energy and then you might get off track, but at least part of your day was on track. Or you don't even know, you may be able to carry that alignment throughout your day so far that it really takes you um just it can carry you through your whole day. There are periods of time, and I think I've mentioned this before in a previous episode, where like everything seems to be going right all the time. And that is when you are doing this consistently enough that you are bringing yourself back to your aligned path over and over and over until most of the time you're just on it. And that is incredible. And when you are, this is what I talk about, the shadow path to sacred feminine success, okay, to divine or wild feminine success. This is what you do. This is tuning into that heartbeat within you so that you know that you're on the right track, and that no matter how off center it seems, you are going to be you are going to be taking steps towards your highest good and your best outcomes. So that is a great way to start your day. And when we don't take the time for that, it's just that much more likely that we're going to be starting out our day not on that right path, right? So, and not to, I wouldn't even say that there's necessarily a wrong path. Everything that we do leads to learning. Every, quote unquote mistake that we make helps us to learn what we don't want to do next time. But starting out on a really strong, confident, this is the right way for me kind of an energy, it lends itself to you being able to carry that energy forward throughout the day. So this is similar to things I've talked about in the past, like getting up to do your self-care in the morning, and then your cup is so full that by the time you go to get your kids up for the day, you're just like the most loving, most available and present mother that you can possibly be. And therefore they start out their day great and they're not miserable. And again, with this snowball effect, but it's a positive snowball effect. It's a positive upward spiral instead of a positive downwards, or instead of a negative downward spiral, right? So we get to choose. And I have to, because I am all about radical responsibility, I have to say that it is your choice, that if you're not doing this, you're choosing that. There is no situation in which you cannot choose this for yourself. There's always an answer. There's always a way to make it happen. And, you can throw any, well, but, and accept this and, all of that at me, and I will still be able to find you a solution for, well, you could do this instead. Well, you could try that. Well, you could, and it's being solution oriented. You have to find a way to do this. If you want to start out your day this way. And this is just, it is a choice. If you're not choosing to make this a priority, then it won't be a priority. And if you are not choosing to spend the time on this first thing in the morning, then it won't be the case. And I know this makes some, especially some moms who have, young kids at home, it makes them angry. Like you can't tell me that it's my choice. I have a baby that wakes up, and does this and that and the other. And it's like, well, actually, yes, because you get to choose how you do this. You can do it lying there still and silent in your bed. And if you're like, well, I just fall back asleep, well, then go to bed earlier. Well, that, like there's, and I know that's harsh and cut and dry. And there's a lot of, not sleeping through the night situations with babies and all of these things, because you guys, I've been there and I still made this happen. So we always get to choose, and it can be for any length of time. And if it needs to be partway through the day, like when baby goes down for their first nap, then do it then, right? It's not a cut and dry. This has to be the first thing or else you're screwed. It's This is the goal. This is what you're aiming for. And if it has to be at that morning nap that you then take the time and recenter, if it takes the whole nap time, it's worth it. That's how important this is. Okay. So I know so deeply how many people would probably sit here and argue with me on that, but I'm going to still stand by that and say that because again, I've been there. I've had the colicky baby. I've had all of the things. And I will say that even bouncing a baby can be a meditative state. You can be in that while you are calming a child. Okay. So it is possible to do both now, and even tuning into your baby's heartbeat. If you can feel their heart against your chest, can be very, very therapeutic and it can be very meditative. So absolutely recommend starting your day with that silence, and being open to following where your heartbeat leads you. The other end of the stick is ending your day with that silence. It has been almost 6 months exactly. It's like another 10 days or so until I hit the 6-month mark of my Suspending Disbelief podcast. Okay. So I have been almost, and I will say almost, there have been the odd day here and there where I've missed a day or even a couple of days. And, actually last week I missed 5 days in a row, and that was the longest I had gone for 6 months, without recording daily episodes. And that was after my big speaking event, and I just was exhausted and I was playing catch up and all the things. So anyway, I have been recording this daily podcast, this daily verbal journal, for 6 months. And the biggest takeaway of anything in there, as much as my suspending disbelief has allowed me to achieve incredible wins, incredible changes in 6 months' time, the biggest and most powerful takeaway that I have had from this experience so far is ending my day in reflection, in stopping and going, what happened today? Why did it happen? How did it make me feel? What can I do differently? Right? Looking at it and not just burying it. So if I had a crappy day, previously I would have just been like, I just want to get to bed. I want to shut down this day. I want to end it. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to focus on it. I just want it to be over. And that feeling is legitimate. But when you stop and when you look at it, you're able to find the lessons. And what has really come through to me is not even so much about the learning that can come from it. It is about actually acknowledging the experience. So when we reflect on what happened throughout our day, the point is not to stew in it, not to could and would have and should have ourselves to death, but to actually acknowledge this happened. And this plays a huge part in our emotional healing journey. And just acknowledging that something happened, it helps begin that emotional healing journey, especially for those hard things. Giving it that acknowledgement gives it the respect and honor that it deserves as a learning experience and a growth, uh, fuel or creator for you, for your life. Just giving you this opportunity for growth and for learning. So as strange as that might sound, um, it aligns perfectly as far as shamanic beliefs go, and just giving the past and our experiences the honor and respect that they deserve. So stopping, reflecting on your day, acknowledging it, and then accepting it, and noticing those lessons, the things that you can learn from that day, and acknowledging your emotions around it. Sometimes all that came out of that reflection was just, I'm fucking angry, and that's okay. And just acknowledging that emotion helps it to start processing so that we can release it, right? And the great thing about reflecting on my day has been giving it that acknowledgement, which also anchors in those lessons so that I really deeply integrate them, more than this method of burying my head under the pillow right before I go to bed and just like, nope, I'm done thinking about this day. Um, that just buries things so that they never get dealt with, and you continue to have the same problems again and again. So the most beneficial part of this has been reflecting learning the lesson and not having to relearn it again and again and again. Now, not saying that I never have to repeat lessons, because that obviously it still happens, but um, not as often. And when it comes up again, I usually move through it much faster every time. I get faster and faster and faster at moving through it and knowing what it's trying to teach me and what I can take away. So, um, when I do that, when I slow down, I stop long enough to reflect on my day. And I love doing it verbally. That's been really, really helpful for me to process, almost as though I'm having a conversation with somebody. Like, you go to a therapist to talk, to get that out, to speak about it. Or you even going to a healer, like you're telling them what's been going on for you. You're verbalizing that. Or when you are, you know, crying on your friend's shoulder or whatever, I'll be your shoulder to cry on type thing. That is because we need to get it out. We need to say it. We need to feel it. We need to let it go. And so doing this verbal thing, this podcast has really been helpful for me. Now, I know a lot of people will say, like, write it down. When you write things with your hand, it anchors it in really solidly. Well, so does saying it verbally. So this has been a really powerful thing for me. I've done a lot of journaling in the past. That was not intended as a dig at journaling. I still love journaling. Okay. But verbally, that has been massively transformative for me to actually voice things out loud. And it started out, the whole idea behind that podcast started out as it was just going to be my journal. And then it turned into this movement. It just snowballed. And so many people are listening to my raw verbal diarrhea some days, where I'm just spitting it all out and I'm saying it and they're loving it. And it also, because I committed to myself that it was going to be raw and real, that I'm not holding back. It is not only me saying it out loud in the silence of my room, but it's me saying it out loud to the world, and really owning my truth and speaking everything that my voice has to share. And it's just been so powerful. So, not saying that you need to start a podcast, but taking the time to reflect, whether that's on paper, writing in a journal, whether that's, maybe having a conversation with your partner, or with a friend or whatever, or out loud to yourself. You can record voice notes if that's how you prefer to do it. There's no wrong way, but take that time to reflect and to acknowledge your day for what it was, and give it that respect. Even those really hard, awful things, give it the respect it deserves for the lesson that it's bringing to you, for the strength that it's giving you. Everything that you overcome makes you stronger. And then the really beautiful part about all of this is that after I reflect, my mind is so at peace, and I go to sleep and I have these really peaceful, fantastic sleeps where the worries have been lifted from my mind. Pardon me. And how does this all tie in? Like, my point is that my mind can get back to silence again before bed. So, that reflecting part at the end of the day frees you up to be able to be in silence again. And some days after that reflection, I have the time to actually sit and tune inwards and receive messages now that I've silenced my mind enough with that reflection. And then other days I fall asleep with that clear mind, which means that even if I'm sleeping, I'm calmed and I'm able to receive the healing of that sleep. I'm able to receive messages in my dreams from my guides. I'm able to really restore myself in that same way that being silent and awake does. Having a calm mind when you're asleep has a very, very similar effect. So, and then, of course, anytime that we can come back to our heartbeat during the day, then we are just bringing ourselves back into alignment every single time, right? With our true path, with the things, the people, the places that are in our highest good. And the more often that you practice this, so if you start out practicing it 5 minutes a day, just once a day, that starts you on the right path. And as you build that up, there have been, I'm not always there. I won't pretend that I am, but there have been times where I spend upwards of 2 hours a day in a meditative state. A lot of the time that's like an hour in the morning, and then sporadically throughout my day, and as well as at the end of the night, like another 15 or 20 minutes or something before bed. And when I'm doing that, that's when my life is flowing like a raging river. Like it's just, but not, it's intense in a beautiful way. It's intense and everything is so aligned. And how is this happening? And it's magical. And oh my gosh, instead of this, like a beaver dam just completely blocking you, and every single stick and twig and branch and tree trunk is in your way when you're trying to flow forward. Okay, so I hope that metaphor made sense. It's just the more often that we can do this, the more consistently that we can do this, get into that level of silence and stillness to hear and feel our heartbeats, that level of meditation or shamanic journey, or even just white noise or meditative music, like whatever it is that works for you, getting quiet enough in your mind to hear your inner voice so that you can continue to flow forward on the correct path for you is just so key. So listen to your heartbeat. Whatever that looks like for you, listen to it, follow it. That is the path for you. And the more that you do this, the more comfortable with your own intuition that you will get, the more confident with it you will get, which also then ripples out into your confidence in your decision making, in the choices that you make for yourself, and in the day-to-day actions that you're taking, and the results that you get from those also being incredibly aligned. And in general, making your life happier, more successful, wealthier, all of the pieces all in one. So I hope that was helpful for you today, and I will talk to you next time.
Thank you so much for being here with me today. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you subscribe to be notified of new episodes. If you really love it here and want to help spread the light, please take a moment to rate the show and leave a review. They help so much. If you love listening and want to be part of the interactive and incredible online community we're growing, make sure you click the link in the description box and join the Facebook group. I promise you it is not like other groups you've been in. Hope to meet you there soon, and I'll be talking to you next week, sending you all my love from my heartbeat to yours.